Now, I have a few things that I wanted to share first, and then we're going to be doing some slides, and we'll both be talking about the slides. But I wanted you to think about yourself this morning. I mean, it's about us and the trip we went on, but I want you to think about yourself. I want to read from Romans chapter 12, 6 through 12. And it says, we all have different gifts, each of which came because of the grace God gave us. The person who has the gift of prophecy should use that gift in agreement with the faith. Anyone who has the gift of serving should serve. Anyone who has the gift of teaching should teach. Whoever has the gift of encouraging others should encourage. Whoever has the gift of giving to others should give freely. Anyone who has the gift of being a leader should try hard when he leads. Whoever has the gift of showing mercy to others should do so with joy. Your love must be real. Hate what is evil, hold on to what is good. Love each other like brothers and sisters. Give each other more honor than you want for yourselves. Do not be lazy, but work hard, serving the Lord with all your heart. Be joyful because you have hope. Be patient when trouble comes, and pray at all times. And so often, we don't think very much about ourselves. I know in the past that I really have struggled with that, and I think many people do. I want to tell you a story about a pencil maker. And throughout Africa, Jessica can think, I always tell stories. Those who've heard me here know that I tell stories. There was a pencil maker, and before he put the pencils in the box, he told them 5 very important lessons that are ones that we can all learn. The first one is that everything that you do will always leave a mark, whether it's good or bad. The second thing is that God can correct the mistakes that you make because the blood washes away the sin and it washes clean. But if we sit back and say, well, I can't do anything, I couldn't do that, then there's nothing that God can correct because we're just stuck in where we're at. Number 3 is what is important is what is inside of you. Is it Jesus? Is it Yeshua? The holiness and the purity that we all want? Number 4, in life you will undergo painful sharpenings which will only make you better. I don't think there's anybody in the room that can say that they don't have some kind of a problem at some point. And those are the sharpenings. And number 5, to be the best pencil, you must allow yourself to be held and guided by the hand that holds you. Who holds you? Is it Yeshua? And we can be the best that He wants us to, as long as we let Him guide us. We need to submit to God, though, and not walk around in fear. We all know the things that are happening in the world right now. And it's cause for fear if we didn't have Yeshua. But with Him, we don't need to fear. I have one other short scripture in James. And it's James 4, verse 7 and 10. So give yourselves completely to God. Stand against the devil, and the devil will run from you. And verse 10 says, don't be too proud in the Lord's presence, and He will make you great. See, we need to have the balance. We need to know who we are. It's like, do you really know who you are? Not the job that you do or the position that you hold as a wife, a mother, a child, but do you know who you are in Christ? Who you are in Yeshua? Because that's who we really are. It's nothing at all that we think of. It's not our job, it's not our title, but it's who are we in Yeshua. And many of us don't have a very good opinion of ourselves. There's a woman named Jan Lambie, and she wrote something that I thought was really appropriate. And it's talking about each one of us. Think what a remarkable, unduplicatable, and miraculous thing it is to be you. Of all the people that have come and gone on the earth since the beginning of time, not one of them is like you. No one who's ever lived or is to come that has your combination of abilities, talents, appearance, friends, acquaintances, sorrows, burdens, opportunities. No one prays about exactly the same things that you do. No one is loved by the same combination of people that love you. No one. No one before and no one to come, because you're absolutely unique. You don't have to lie to conceal the parts of you that are not like what you see anyone else. You were meant to be different, and we're all different. If you did not exist, there would be a hole in creation, something missing from the plan for humankind. So treasure your uniqueness. It's a gift that Yeshua has given to you. No one can speak your words or convey your meanings. No one can comfort with the same kind of comfort you give. Share your uniqueness and let it be free to flow out among your family and friends, people that you meet just in the daily life, wherever you are. That gift of yourself was given to you to enjoy, but not to hoard. Give yourself away. See the uniqueness around you in each person you meet. The collection of unique, irreplaceable beings around you has never been available before and will never be the same again. And I say that to encourage each of you. We went on a mission trip to Africa. Not everybody can do that. Not everybody is called to do that. But everybody is called to do something. Whether it's to speak to your next door neighbor, or whether it's to go around the world to a foreign country. Each person is unique enough that they have a place, and that God has a plan and a desire for you and a purpose for you to fulfill. Now, if we can get somebody to dim the lights a little bit, we'll start with the slides. We met while we were in Uganda, but before we went to Uganda, I was in Kenya. So I have just a couple of slides about Kenya. And this was last March. And actually, I left the end of March, and we got back on the 14th of April. Okay. This is a street in a city called Kitengela, and it's just a typical street. You can see that they're not very well, and it's pretty bumpy when you go down. It's typical of most of Africa. Okay. Chapati is something that they have a lot of over there. It's like a tortilla, and she was rolling it out, and then the second slide is they have a charcoal, and that's what they do a lot of cooking on. And they have to bend over, and they do one at a time on this little charcoal fire with just the grill on top of it.
This is actually a nicer kitchen, what you say, compared to many.
Yes, very much nicer. Okay. This is the children's home where I was at. They have an orphanage there as well as a school. I think they had like 100 and some children there. This is a girls' school, and it's one of the biggest girls' schools in Kenya. You can see in the next picture here, kind of the size of it. Over in both Kenya and Uganda, you're allowed to freely speak about the Lord. You can pray with the kids, you can talk, like it used to be here. And they said, well, there's nobody that probably doesn't know the Lord. But at the end of it, I had an opportunity to ask who would like to accept the Lord. And I had 7 girls come up to accept the Lord. This was the church that I spoke at there, Pastor Murray, and I've been there for 3 times now. And that was their kitchen. And this was inside of the church. And you'll see the cloth and all the decoration in there. That's very typical for both Kenya and Uganda inside of their churches. They have all this material that they put out and they hang and all the drape and everything. It's really beautiful. And then the kids, I love to watch the kids worship because they know how to worship. Okay. Now comes the part with Uganda. And if you notice, we both have on African dresses that we got over there. Various styles, but this embroidery that's on them, this is very typical for Uganda. They do this on a machine, but they use treadle machines to do it, not electric ones. The first part is young man Markson that I've worked with, and that's the one that has the orphans, and we'll have a lot of pictures on them. But this first part is our time with him. I was waiting for Jessica because she got to the airport about 5 hours after I did. So we went and left the airport, and Markson is the young man sitting at the left, and the pastor is on the right, another pastor. But beautiful beach there at Lake Victoria that we were able to go and wait for Jessica at, and then we went back to the airport.
Here I am unpacking the first night. And you can see the mosquito net there. Mosquito nets are very important. Malaria is very, very prominent over there. I'd say, when you say the majority of the population has malaria, because it never fully goes away.
And even the missionaries, the long-term missionaries, most of them have malaria. And there is no cure for it, but they can get medicine that keeps the symptoms down. This is Markson's wife. This is actually the kitchen area, but it's like a little closet. There's not a kitchen. So she brings it out onto the porch to do her dishes.
This was a Sunday school at Markson's church, and up at the top there you see that I'm singing a song, and down there, this was the little Sunday school area there, and the little kids sit on the papyrus mat there. They don't have the chairs, but we had a really nice time that day. They really enjoyed it, and from what I heard, the next Sunday we were gone somewhere else, but they were asking if we were going to be back. They were so excited. They really enjoyed the time that we shared with them with the Lord.
You can see too in the church, those are the steps up to like the platform where we're standing now, but that's how high it is there. And it's one of the things that many of the churches there that I really struggle with, because it's like they elevate those that are in leadership, and many churches will even have special chairs where they sit up there during the whole service, which isn't really biblical because we're all equal. We had an opportunity to pray for a lot of people. This was still at Markson's church. See both of us, and there were just long lines, because when you ask people if they want prayer, like everybody in the church will come up. And if they can, they'll get in both lines.
That's true. And I find, and I'm sure Caroline can attest to that, as many times as she's been to Africa, that it seems like the spiritual environment there's a lot more intense. There's a lot of witchcraft over there, so there's a lot of things that go along with that the people need prayer for.
There was a lot of healings, unfortunately, because we prayed for people in various churches, but most of the time when they were giving the testimonies of that, they would do it in Lugandan, which is the language for most of Uganda, and they never gave us the interpretation, so we don't really know what all happened. But I know a few that did happen. There were many people that were healed from headaches and back problems. One woman that had had a menstrual problem for years that was totally healed, like the woman in the Bible when she touched the hem of the robe of the Lord. And there were some other things that I was supposed to get the list of, and still am waiting.
The one that I remember the most, Caroline, is a lady that when I was praying with her, I sensed the witchcraft. I just sensed it, and I asked her about it, and she said that she believed that somebody had put some type of a hex on her or whatnot. So Caroline and I prayed for her, and Caroline just broke that through the Lord, and Up to them, the lady could barely see. She was almost blind. You could even see her eyes, and then immediately she could see. Very, very intense environment. The Lord really stresses stuff over there, so to speak. He's really amazing.
And they come ready for the Lord to move. They don't go to the doctor first. They go to prayer first because they don't have money for a doctor. And if they do have money for a doctor, they can't find one often. I was by flags and dancing over there too. I had an opportunity to teach some of the ones at Markson's church, plus another young man.
They really did enjoy Caroline's flags there, and they all were eager to learn.
You can see the women they were trying to follow, but not understanding the English was a little bit difficult to teach some of it.
You can see that the church has a dirt floor to it, and you can see that there was a roof on there, but not all the way. In fact, that roof that they do have was just put on there when we got over there.
Had an opportunity to teach on Passover while we were there. That was exciting because they knew nothing about it. So when we did a demonstration with Jessica and Markson and I, and then we were doing it by flashlight because the lighting was not good enough that we could see anything. So, and then at the end, after the teaching, then we had communion so everyone could come up and participate. And we had a lot of comments. It's like, oh, we want more of the teaching about that. We want to learn more about some of the traditions. So that was exciting too. This was at a restaurant. The food on the plate there, there's kind of some yellow on the left. It's called matoki. It's made from like a plantain banana, and that's one of their mainstays. And this was what they would eat, not what, I mean, we ate what they cooked, but at this restaurant, this was from a restaurant, we didn't eat what they did that day. There's some things that we weren't too sure what they were. Also had an opportunity that I was able to teach them about a mikvah, because they were going to do some baptisms, and we were going to go to Lake Victoria with them, but then it ended up with this whole group of people there at the bottom. After I taught that there wasn't room in the van for all of us, so then Markson went ahead and they did the actual mikvah rather than the traditional baptism that they had known. And they were so excited about that idea, because they had never even heard of that or how Jesus would have done it. Our first limousine ride, not here in America, but in Africa. Markson got married while we were there.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing over there. They make a huge deal out of weddings and spend a lot of money on them. They might not have money to eat for the week, but they're going to spend a lot of money on their weddings. And the way they do it, correct me if I'm wrong, is that they let all their friends know and they set them out a budget, kind of along with the invite. This is what we want to do, and this is how much it's going to cost. And it's kind of a known thing that friends donate to the cause, and that's what pays for the wedding, so to speak. So, and like you could see, this is a donated limousine. You would think in such a poor country that it wouldn't be this way, but when it comes to their weddings, they're first class.
And the interesting thing with the budget is they write different budgets to give to different people. So that way, nobody thinks that they need all of these things. They only know of a few things, so they'll help with those few. This was the wedding. You see the beautiful dress. And between the dress at the wedding and the reception, she had like 4 different fancy dresses, and he had like 3 outfits. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. And this was the garden that we went to after the ceremony. opportunity to do, because they do a full-length sermon at the weddings there too. So I taught on covenant, the same teaching as we have here. And I've had several comments from different pastors and emails and stuff since then, asking me if I could share some more about it. So that was exciting. This was part of the reception. And they grab you and they dance. And so we're dancing along. And of course, I had the wrong shoes on and my shoe came off in the middle of it. We had a lot of fun. This was one of those unexpected things. You want to tell about this one?
Sure. Well, the year before this one, as Markson calls it, Mama Carol Ann, was over there last year. And Markson is also a musician, and he has a video you can even look up on YouTube. And while he was over there, he was shooting the video for it, and Mama Carol Ann had a few scenes where you could see her doing the flags. And of course, this intrigued the media over there. This is one of the top Christian television stations.
Top TV is the name of it.
Right. You can finish.
Yes. Top TV. So anyhow, they were doing an interview with Markson, and then she said, well, I want to interview both of you too. And I think that was probably one of the more stretching things for me, because she says, now, I heard that you sing, and I said, no, I don't sing, I dance. And she insisted to the point that I ended up having to sing on television. That was not her thing. Jessica, on the other hand, has a good voice to sing.
But yeah, it was really nice. The lady's name is escaping me, but it was just a whole God thing that Mama Carol Ann here rode with the news anchor there and was able to minister to her and some of the deep needs and things that she has, and was very, very touched by the Lord through Carol Ann. So God just orchestrated so much while we were over there in so many facets that were unexpected. You know, we already know Uganda's a third world country. We already know, we kind of had the expectations of how things would go there, but God does things beyond our expectations, and in so many facets that we would have never imagined like this.
TV being one of them. And it's going to go to the next one there. I ended up doing an hour-long TV show on Easter morning. And it was through the woman that I ministered to in the car. She worked at a TV station there. She talked to her boss, and then ended up that we went there. But during this whole thing, it's like they were supposed to get there early so that kind of go over things. She was going to ask me some questions. It rained really hard, and then over there when it rains, everything seems to stop. Because when she finally got there, she goes, oh, I didn't think you'd even make it because of the rain. And we were there probably 20 minutes before her. And so we never had any time to plan anything that was being said. So everything was just kind of spur of the moment.
God kind of likes that. I think He likes that.
But it was really neat. And then it was broadcast Easter morning, and then I found out since then that that was also broadcast again. I don't know when, but the wedding of Markson's, they've had that on TV twice with the entire sermon on covenant. So I was excited about that one. Okay.
The last picture here that you see the 24-hour shopping. This is in a nicer area of Kampala. You'll find that the whites that come over, this is typically where they'll shop. This is more, I don't know if you would say, maybe a little bit more expensive, but it's low quality food that you can trust a little bit. And then on the right-hand side, you see pineapples for sale. This is so typical that you see these little shaky.
These are on the back of a bicycle.
Yeah, these are on the back of the bicycle. You'll see this a lot where they'll be riding their bikes. How do they do that? They'll have all this stuff, you know, I don't know how they keep from losing their balance, but they'll just bring them into town, and they have little markets alongside the road. Anybody wants to set up their stuff and sell it, and a lot of it smells really good. They'll be cooking things, but again, you just have to be so careful because of the disease over there that you can't just, you know, pick anything and eat it. You have to be very careful.
Here's some other places, some different things that they had, the little stores, and the stores on the left are actually some of the better ones. Some of them are not even that nice. That 24-hour store you saw before, that's fairly new. Up until the last few years, they never had anything like that. Because I can remember when I started going over, they had white bread, the soft white bread, and that's the only kind there was. You had no choices for anything else.
And they have electricity too.
Yeah.
They have electricity.
At least part of the time. Because they have planned outages on their electric in Uganda, and whoever is doing it plans it, but other people, they never know. So they can be in the middle of cooking, in the middle of anything, and all of the electric is out all of a sudden. And maybe for a couple of hours, and maybe for a couple of days, they never know. So they have all the things that they have to prepare, like with candles and kerosene lamps and the little charcoal stoves that they do a lot of cooking on during that time.
And mind you, this is in Kampala, the largest city in Uganda. So you
Yeah.
can imagine the largest city in Uganda that we're still a little bit primitive on that you can imagine what it's like out in the villages.
Some more typicals on the streets, and the matoki, like I was saying, is their typical food, and that's the bananas that are down there at the bottom. The local butcher shop, not where we would want to buy our meat especially, but we ate meat from the local butcher shops, and we're still here. Because God is good.
His nature is good.
And I went to speak at a church in one of the slum areas while Jessica went back to the orphanage the one day. And this was that area there. Okay. Okay. These were the kids that were outside of the little church there watching it. You can see the girl in the bottom with the green dress and the white. There were many Muslim children, and they were all standing there watching, and some of them were joining and trying to worship and dance out there. So, and they speak enough English that they could understand what was being said. Okay.
Actually, I was surprised, I know Caroline's probably not because she's been over there quite a few times, but I was actually very surprised at how many Muslims there actually are over in Uganda and how many mosques there are. I was awake in my first morning that I woke up there. It was barely light, and I woke up to somebody singing really loud, Allah Akbar. And I'm like, who is outside my window singing that? Then I realized, I asked her, is that a mosque? Yeah, but there's a lot of people that are converting over there to Christianity. A lot of people.
Unfortunately, there are also a lot that are becoming Muslims.
Yeah, so we have a fight to fight on our knees, guys. We need a lot of prayer.
These next pictures are about the children's home over there. Jesus is Alive Children's Center is the name of it. Seems like a long name, but that's the one that you help support. So most of the pictures will be about that. On the way there, one day, we got stuck in the mud. They have the big termite hills, and it rained. So we tried to get around something and ended up in part of the termite hill, which collapsed, and so that this is in someone's front yard, so we're being dug out.
This is my favorite part of the whole trip, right here. I believe this was the day that you were preaching at the little church that you had to do. Sorry. And I went back to the orphanage again, and there I'm giving the kids, they call them biscuits. They're just basically like shortbread cookies that they don't get a whole lot of, and they are so gracious and thankful. And if we could learn so much from the Ugandans and a lot of the third world countries on the thankfulness and the politeness. They all waited their turn, they didn't rush in and try to.
You can see too how
Yeah.
happy the kids look down there. Because they love it when they have people come to visit.
Yeah.
Go ahead. We were doing a skit for the kids. We did several skits in various churches and stuff too, but everybody always seemed to really enjoy that. Because even if they didn't understand the words when we were doing it, they could go by the actions.
Yeah, they seem to really enjoy it.
You could see how much they were watching and listening as we were doing the skit. We took some crayons and colored books, and they had like one box of crayons. There's like 21 kids there, and there might have been 36 in the box of crayons. We didn't hear anybody squabbling over getting a different color or anything else. Now I was able to get pictures colored for each of the sponsors to bring back. There was one child that was not there that we left stuff for them later because she was having tests at school to go to the next grade. Go ahead.
Well, this, what we did was, you know, the majority of those kids there, they don't even know when they were born. You know, their parents have died for various reasons, most of them from disease. AIDS is really bad over there. Complications from malaria, lots of different reasons that parents die. Over there, if you make it to my age, you're doing pretty good, you know. So a lot of these kids don't even know when they were born, to know when their birthdays are. So every year, Carol Ann thought it'd be a great idea to have a birthday party. And so this year, of course, when I was with her, we had a big birthday party for everybody, and we celebrated everybody's birthdays, and they got cake, and you'll see in the next slide as well what it was.
And what was neat is, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, the kids that they didn't know their birthdays, we assigned them birthdays so that they could have a special day that they know was something special for them. We like the cake too. Also had an opportunity to take a lot of toys and stuff, so we gave out the stuffed animals so that each child had a stuffed animal. And then we had baseball caps and toys and shirts for each of the boys.
Look how happy they are. They were so happy.
And then with the girls, instead of the hats, I had some jewelry that we gave to them. And they're just all their stuff. And then some of the sponsors sent letters, so we had the letters read to them so they'd understand it in their language. And they're just holding on to that stuff because they'll still have those things when I go back next time.
What language do they speak?
It's various languages in the village there. Most of the kids speak Lugandan, but yet parts of Uganda, they also speak Yankoli, and there's several other smaller languages, because actually every tribe had their own language. But the interesting thing is the official language for the country is English. It's the British English, so it's very hard to understand sometimes. But if you get into the villages, they don't speak it at all. They all have their own languages. This is the well.
Yeah, this is the well that a few of you guys really kicked in to help support. And I know that people don't like to be called out, but Brittany, there's so many parts there. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Really amongst quite a few others of you, thank you very much. And anyway, we were able to finish the well, and now they have fresh, clean water. Before
These are
that,
some pictures.
okay.
These are some pictures of as they're digging the well, and it was hand dug, so you can kind of watch in these pictures.
Yeah, when I heard they were drilling a well, I thought, okay, well, they're probably bringing a well digger from Kampala or something. No, they were doing it by hand.
Caroline, how does that function? Have they dug down to a water source, or is it collecting rainwater?
A water source.
Yeah, before that, while Caroline's getting the knife fixed, before that, they were hiking over a mile each way to get water from a dirty stream. I mean, you'd be reluctant to even let a dog drink that water. It's just filthy. And that's what you do. You see a lot of over there is you see these filthy little streams and people down there with these dirty little containers just sweeping up the water back to their place with. And thank you guys for helping support this place that they can have clean water now.
The idea that they were actually able to have the water on a well at the orphanage, everybody was so excited because there's the village that they're close to, the village doesn't even have a well.
And there, you can see more well pictures, and then up there, I'm pumping it for basically, it's kind of like a groundbreaking ceremony, so to speak. This was, they just got the pump done. You can see he's even making sure his food tightened up there, and we're pumping the water out, and we're saying, hey, it works, they got clean water.
And since we left, they put a fence around it to not only to keep the kids from going and playing in it, but also to keep the people from the village from going to steal it.
Yeah, and it's not that we don't want them to share the water, but we also have provided seeds where they can have a garden out there. And if everybody comes in, they're going to trample the garden.
They have to go through the garden to get to them.
And it's a security issue as well for the kids. We don't want everybody, we don't know what kind of characters are coming in. But
This is the garden. It's not a real clear picture because the plants were actually up about so high. And there were two sections to it. They had beans and several different things. And some of you have given seeds for that garden.
it's probably really nice to see when you give something, you envision and you trust that it's going somewhere, but it's really nice to see it in action and it happening.
Okay. It's the typical way that they dry dishes. They wash them outside and then they put them on that table to dry. And have them upside down so you still have the dirt and the dust and everything that gets into them. They don't wipe them off again before you use them to eat. And while we were there, I decided that I would do some cooking for Jessica and I, because they don't eat just plain vegetables. So we had some cabbage and carrots and potato, I forget what all, we mixed together and made. So then afterwards, there was this one older man, very old man, and so we're trying to get everyone to just taste these vegetables because they won't eat just a plain vegetable. So they finally decided, okay, that each one tasted it and they decided that they liked them. Because they'll put like in a big pot like this, one of the big cooking pots, they may have one carrot or maybe a couple of tomatoes for a little seasoning, but that's all that they do with it.
And being that money is an issue and trying to feed all the kids and whatnot, they're at least able to eat by your guys' sponsorship and whatnot. Their diet pretty much composes of, did you say, beans, rice?
Mostly rice and sometimes matoke. It's like a gruel that they make. They call it porridge, but it's thin enough that they drink it.
And then we try to make sure that they get meat at least once a week. If possible, but
Yeah.
the prices go up and
Yeah, I just got word yesterday actually that the price of everything has gone up so much that it's really been a struggle lately. The old sleeping quarters on the left, is where the boys used to have to sleep before the new house was built where the girls are. On the right, again, where we were praying for somebody.
Have you commented on the whole construction? What they're made
Okay.
of?
Yeah, it's made out of they make their own bricks from the ground because it's all this red clay type ground over there. So they make them, they have these big, looks almost like a hut or something, and they fire them in there to get them hard.
Kiln.
No, it's like a kiln, but it's like building size, or small building size, probably almost that big. And then they had the thatched roof on it. And then 2 years ago, we were able to build a house. And the one on the right is the old house where kids all were staying other than for sleeping. And there were 20 kids in that little 2-bedroom house. So the boys still live in the old house and the girls have the new house. And then the new house, that has 3 bedrooms and a very, very large living area space in the middle. They don't have furniture or anything in it, but they also do a preschool in there.
Naboth was another pastor that we visited. That's where we traveled. Lugazi is pretty much in the center east Uganda. That's where we were before in the village you just saw. Then we went down to Pastor Naboth and Embarara, which is southwest Uganda. We had a nice fun bus ride there.
Public bus.
Public bus.
Unique experience.
We'll just leave it at that.
Then we got there, and I worked with him years. My very first trip, I had 17 trips to Africa. My first trip was in '93, and I had worked with Pastor Naboth then, and had not seen him for probably almost 10 years until last year when we kind of got back together again. So I had not seen the new house that he just built, which was beautiful.
And we won't take the time for the story in this, but this wasn't something that he could afford. It was a whole God-given gift.
And it's not finished inside, because they'll build where they get the outside, and then they'll build a part on the inside, and when they get enough money, they'll do a little bit more, and then a little bit more. But this is the view from his place with all of the beautiful trees. Okay. This is the school and the church combined. They have 430 some orphans and that they take care of. This is for the grade school and the junior high, and then they have the high school quarters are separate. There'll be some pictures of that. But this was when they had all of the kids together for an assembly for us to share with them. And you can see that on the flag on the left is Israel flag, and the one on the right is the Uganda flag, because they very much support Israel. Jessica had an opportunity to sing several times over there, which they really enjoyed. And I had an opportunity to blow my shofar and teach on the shofar and why it's blown. And
They really enjoyed that too. This is the kids' choir and worship, and they did it both as part of worship, but it was also kind of a gift to us, a treat to welcome us, to have these kids perform and to worship. It was beautiful.
every church you go to has at least 3 or 4 choirs, especially the kids' choirs, but the adult ones too. And their worship lasts for maybe an hour or more. Sometimes I've been in services where the worship itself has been for an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, and then they have another 2 hours of preaching.
This is the kids saying their pledge. And then the kids at recess, which was a treat for Caroline and I. We were able to wander around the grounds there and mingle with the kids there. And of course, being that we were the Zulus with the white skin, they were all very intrigued by us. And it was just such a treat. And I'm just so amazed at how happy these kids are. I mean, they could have every reason in the world to have their pity parties on how rough life has been for them, their orphans and whatnot, but they're just so happy. We have so much we can learn from them.
And Mazulka is the word that she used, and that's what the white people are called over there. And every time you go any place, if you're in the car, these kids are all going, oh, Mazulka, Mazulka. So you got all these kids running after you. This is part of the high school there at Naboth, which is in a different area, but close to the new house. This is also the building that I stayed in several times on my earlier trips. One of which I'll never forget because that's when I had company in the bedroom with me, a rat about so big. I'm glad it wasn't that way this time.
This is part of one of the high school dorms. Now, these kids here were lucky in that they have the bunk beds. Not all of the kids have bunk beds yet. Some of them just sleep right out on the dirt floor. And the floors are dirt. But this is a nicer area of the orphanage there that they all have to their teenagers. But I have to say, the upper right is a picture of the kitchen, a high school kitchen. It's got a makeshift roof on it, but it's outdoors. You can see the giant pots that they use to cook over the fire. And there's a chicken running around in the background there. Just running through the kitchen, and that's how they cook there.
This was inside the house at Nabos. This is his wife, Alice. She had taught there at the school for years and just retired this last year. Then we went to Pastor Tucker's. Some of you know Pastor Tucker. He's been here and been several times. This was at his church on the left. The building, the brown building, is kind of toward the back, far right. That's his church, and then just the grounds. And they have a preschool there that we had a chance to go and be with all of the kids and see all the classrooms and teach them.
Oh, can I remark on something that Tucker? Pastor Tucker, one of the things that's really nice what Pastor Tucker is doing is, in addition to the school and the church that he has, he also has this calling to empower people into life skills. Because it's great, as many people, the saying goes, you can give a man a fish and he eats for a day, you teach a man to fish and he eats for a lifetime. Well, his idea is that let's get some other trade school-like things going so that when they get older, they can learn work skills and they can learn life skills and become productive and understand that work equals pay and basically sustain themselves. And so that's something pretty neat that Pastor Tucker is doing in addition to the church and the school there.
The other thing too is that Pastor Tucker's that with the preschool now has gone up through 4th grade because he has 3 children and they were putting them in a private school because they have a public school system in Uganda, but it's so bad that there are some of the public schools that the kids go and play all day. They don't even have a teacher. So they put them in private schools, and the better the schools are, of course, the more they cost. So instead of doing that, they decided they were going to just start having the school right there. So for their kids, plus neighborhood kids, and to also bring in some money for the church. Although most of the people don't seem to actually be paying for the kids.
School's not free over there. And often the teachers live right there on the grounds at the school.
And you saw the other 2 pictures there, just a couple of idea of the churches, and what they look like. This is a termite hill. And and they're like huge. They're like some of them 8 feet tall. And I remember my first trip especially, because the top was all caved in on one. And I'm asking Nabos's wife, Alice, what is that? What kind of animal lives in that? And she goes, oh, termites. No, the big thing, what kind of animal lives in that? Until I finally, about the 5th time she told me, realized that, oh, those are termite hills? It's not what we see. They have many different places on the road where they'll just have the police checks too. And if they see the bazooka in the car, they'll usually just flag them on through. But otherwise they check, and I'm never sure what they're checking for. And even at the airport when they check you, I don't think that they're really sure what they're checking for either.
We got stopped at one when they had a metal detector, and they were wanting it, and they were wanting the car, and the car's metal, but
This is very typical. The girl at the bottom, hers is fairly light, but some of these, I've seen these kids with these heavy loads on their heads, let alone the top one there with the mama. She's got the baby on her back, and sometimes they'll have another one in front, the younger one, plus the things on their head.
This was a wedding introduction again. Remember how big the weddings are over there. And they have engagement parties, they have, well, this is a wedding introduction party where basically the parents, the gifts are given to the parents of the bride, and it's basically official with their, I guess.
It's like a dowry.
Yeah, like a
Because
dowry.
it's like the women over there, when you get married, they don't provide for the wedding. The man has to pay for everything, unlike here. But he also has to have at least 2 times of going and giving gifts to the bride's parents. And over Markson, that they had wanted 2 cows, plus they had some fruit and some other things too. So he'd given 1 cow and then he gave money for the other one. But they were not able to actually get married until this was all taken care of. And here you see, and it surprised me when I first saw it, the man on the left, that's the white robes that they wear, and the suit coat, those are all Christian men. Those are all believers, they're not Muslims like you would think of. That's just the tradition. And on the right, that's the traditional dresses that they use when they're dressed up. It's called a basuti. But they all came in and we were able to join in with them. And we had this long line of all these gifts and stuff, because this was quite an expensive wedding that this was going to be. And then they had a big buffet for everybody. We were wearing the traditional dresses.
It was hot.
That's very hot material. And they decided that from there we were going straight to the airport. And they were going to take us on the shortest way.
The short way was on the back roads that weren't paved, only to avoid the traffic jams. Oh my goodness, the traffic over there. I had to not watch half the times. But the picture doesn't do it justice. There's a rut in the road to the left you can see, but that thing probably was 2.5 feet, at least feet deep that you did not want to get into. But it was quite an adventure.
And
yeah,
part of the adventure too was the fact that this car that we were in, every time it stopped for anything, it wouldn't start again. Because earlier that day, I'd gone someplace and about half a mile from the house, and the thing stopped, and so I ended up an hour later walking back to the house. Well, they said that it was the alternator, so they never fixed it. So instead what they did is they just took it anyway, and so we went to this introduction, which was quite a ways away, and we stopped about 3 times. So every time we stopped, they brought an extra battery along, so they would start it with the extra battery. So when we go to leave, we're supposed to be getting to the airport, not as early as we did, but we were going to get there, and it was starting to get dark, and a little bit darker, and it wasn't dark by the time we got there. But after we got to the airport, they still had another hour to hour and a half to go back home. And with no alternator and no lights working, and by the time they dropped us off, it was already dark where you need lights as far as we were concerned. I did hear that they made it back safely, but I was glad I wasn't in the car. You were too, just about. But this shortcut ended up taking us about 2 hours.
yeah. Well, the traffic in Kampala is nothing you can imagine. There's no rule. I mean, there's rules, but nobody abides by them. People don't stop for stop signs. There's hardly any stoplights. And I would just, oh my gosh, that guy's coming in so close. And I told Carolyn, I'm never going to drive without Brian's driving ever again. So now if I get scared, he says, Kampala. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, they use their horn a lot. Yeah. But this is at the airport when we're heading home. Happy but tired. Did not sleep much on the way home. Okay. Yeah, thank you for allowing us to share and going on our trip to Uganda with us. And I'd like to say a prayer for those that may have a desire to go on the mission field sometime. Just join me, and if this is you, just know that you're included. Dear Lord, I just thank you that you do put people on a mission field, whether it's a mission of someone next door to us or across the world. Lord, those that are really called to go to other countries, I ask for your provision for them, spiritually, financially, emotionally, and physically. Just guide them, direct them, help them to know when and where they're to go. Just lead them. Lord, for those who stay here, I ask that you would bless them for what they do to enable others to go. Just praise you and we thank you. In Yeshua. Now, I did have two really short videos that I also wanted to play that I think you'll really enjoy. One is on the traditional dancing that they had for us over there, and the other is some youth that are dancing. The other one is some high school kids that were worshiping.